In the dead of night, when the moon is high and ill winds blow, and the banshees cry and the moonlight casts an unearthly glow, arise, my love, with tales of woe.
Good evening. It is 12 midnight, the paranormal hour. Welcome to Ghost to Ghost. I'm your host, Chief Lawson. Ghost to Ghost is a podcast to discuss all paranormal and parapsychology subjects. You can find Ghost to Ghost on all major formats, so tell your friends, tell your family. Come listen to Ghost to Ghost. Topic for tonight, the Christmas Carol. Tonight's guest is Heather Lawson, spirit trainer and director for the podcast, Ghost to Ghost. Welcome.
Welcome.
So, tonight we talk about one of our favorite ghost stories. A Christmas ghost story at that. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And this is my favorite ghost story. Written in 1843 on December the 19th. It sold out by Christmas Eve. It has never been out of print. It has never been out of print since that time. And it's actually a novella, not a novel.
Can you tell us what's the difference between a novel and a novella?
A novella is a short story written in a narrator form and in that of a novel.
Isn't this also known as a Christmas story?
Yeah, a lot of people refer to it as that. Now, my thinking has always been, I go back to the Gene Shepherd story of, the Red Ryder BB gun. That Christmas story always pops in mind.
With the rabbit suit.
Yeah, with the rabbit suit made by the ant. Yeah, I love that as well. But that's the one. So to me, it's always been the Christmas Carol. It was written in the British time of holiday reform, so to speak. So, Dickens was influenced to write this during a visit to a ragged school called Field Lane. What is a ragged school?
It's a school and home for poor children.
Ah. Well, Dickens was also influenced by his father, who was sentenced to a debtor's prison, something, we obviously don't have any longer. And, of course, he was greatly...
Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, I would say so. Half the population of America would probably be in there. And, of course, he was greatly influenced by Washington Irving, another one of my favorite authors. And we all know him for the writer of my next favorite ghost story.
Oh, yes. Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. It's believed the reason for his writing this is Britain's attitude toward poverty and the poor at the time.
Yeah, there was a lot of really turning a blind eye, if you will. It contains 5 staves or acts to the story.
So was this meant to be a play?
Yes, it kind of was. I mean, its characters is that of Ebenezer Scrooge, Bob Cratchit, Fred Scrooge, and Jacob Marley. And don't forget Tiny Tim. God bless us, everyone. Further, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Set in the Victorian Europe, we see Scrooge in his office, and he's treating his clerk, Bob Cratchit, rather poorly. He's sitting there, and he's counting his money, and in walks Fred, his brother, with whom Scrooge denies Christmas, and certainly isn't going to give him any alms for the poor, which is what Fred is after. So, at that point, he closes the shop and tells Cratchit he has to work on Christmas Day, and and it's bad enough he's not giving him enough coal to even stay warm at his desk, but now he has to come in on Christmas Day. And so anyway, he goes home, and most traditional in the story itself, he gets food, and he heads home and is eating it, and then he gets visited by his deceased partner, Marley, and he comes in with a horrifically long chain, and he announces the fact that he's came to help him to reform, and he tells him he doesn't want to reform. He liked the way it was and how great they were together, and he tells him that the chain he wears is all the mistakes he's made in life, and that his chain is almost 3 times that size. And then he tells him he's going to be visited by 3 ghosts, which, of course, Scrooge is not overly happy about, nor wishes to be visited, but it's not a...
Does anybody really want to be visited by ghosts?
Definitely not now that you've been forewarned. It's bad enough when they surprise you, but when you know they're coming, it's a problem. And the ghosts are quite different than what most people would expect. They may, and truthfully, you know, you have to look at it in that respect. But they made this into a TV show from the original book, and many of the adaptations of the Carol have been made over the years. Actually, there's over 86 different movies that have been made and about probably 25 plays. I mean,
that's quite a lot.
Oh, yeah. The first one being a 1938 edition starring Alistair Sims, and that's probably one of the most famous only because it was the first. Many actors have portrayed Scrooge, some very big names. George C. Scott, now that's one of my favorites, and I have actually several copies of different Christmas Carol renditions by different actors, but that's probably my favorite. He does that rather well. Did this around the time he played Patton in the movie, so Henry Winkler, we all know from our age, as the Fonz. Yeah, he actually played Scrooge. Sir Patrick Stewart. Who's that, honey?
Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, Star Trek fame. So, and then, of course, Scrooge McDuck, Bill Murray, who played in the movie Scrooge, and Fred Flintstone, Kevin Farley. There's been so many people that have played this wonderful role. Again, my favorite is probably George C. Scott, and my other two favorites is Scrooge. Scrooge is a little bit different takeoff. Gets away from the traditional Scrooge. Yeah, I think everybody does. Bill Murray plays, Ebenezer Scrooge, and oh my God, he brings some of the SNL cast in as Ghost, and it's worth every bit. I mean,
it's a good movie.
It is. It's a really good one. And the other one that I personally love is The American Carol, and oh my God. For those out there, even if you you like Michael, it's worth watching this because this is a satire basically against him, but it is very, very funny. What does the Carol teach us, Heather?
Well, it teaches us redemption, atonement, everybody gets second chances, and the way the world is today, we could use these lessons.
Yeah, truly does. And I hope everyone out there tonight that's listening and will be listening in the future, take time to sit and watch the movie and contemplate. This isn't exactly mainline parapsychology, but we felt that it was fitting for the actual time of year, and we really felt like we'd like to reach out and let everyone, know that be thinking of these things. I mean, everyone deserves second chances. So, God bless us, everyone, I guess. Good night, Tiny Tim, and from all of us and all of our families of spirit, to you and your families, a very Merry Christmas, and may all of you have all you need and be safe. Good night. Say good night, Heather.
Good night, Heather.
Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Ghost, and tonight is our holiday Christmas special for 2022. And I hope you truly enjoy it. And to set the mood, I'm going to turn this over to our podcast producer. And Jennifer's going to give you instructions to enhance your listening pleasure.
So go ahead, grab a cup of hot cocoa, your warmest blanket, curl up in your coziest chair by your fireplace, sit back, and get ready for some stories. Smee by A.M. Burridge. No, said Jackson with a deprecatory smile. I'm sorry. I don't want to upset your game. I shan't be doing that because you have plenty without me. But I'm not playing any games of hide and seek. It was Christmas Eve, and we were having a party of 14 with just the proper leavening of youth. We had dined well. It was a season for childish games, and we were all in the mood for playing them. All, that is, except Jackson. When somebody suggested hide and seek, there was rapturous and almost unanimous approval. His was the one dissentant voice. It was not like Jackson to spoil sport or refuse to do as others wanted. Somebody asked him if he were feeling seedy. No, he answered, I feel perfectly fit, thanks. But, he added with a smile which softened without retracting the flat refusal, I'm not playing hide and seek. Why not? Someone asked. He hesitated for a moment before replying. I sometimes go and stay at a house where a girl was killed. She was playing hide and seek in the dark. She didn't know the house very well, and there was a door that led to servants' staircase. When she was chased, she thought the door led to a bedroom. She opened the door and jumped, and landed at the bottom of the stairs. She broke her neck, of course. We all looked serious. Miss Fernley said, How terrible! And were you there when it happened? Jackson shook his head sadly. No, he said. But I was there when something else happened. Something worse. What could be worse than that? This was, said Jackson. He hesitated for a moment. Then he said, I wonder if any of you have ever played a game called Smee. It's much better than hide and seek. The name comes from It's Me, of course. Perhaps you'd like to play it instead of hide and seek. Let me tell you the rules of the game. Every player is given a sheet of paper. All the sheets except one are blank. On the last sheet of paper is written Smee. Nobody knows who Smee is except Smee himself or herself. You turn out the lights, and Smee goes quietly out of the room and hides. After a time, the others go off to search for Smee. But of course they don't know who they are looking for. When one player meets another player, he challenges him by saying, Smee? The other player answers, Smee, and they continue searching. The real Smee does not answer when someone challenges. The second player stays quietly beside him. Presently they will be discovered by a third player, who will challenge and receive no answer, and he will join the first two. This goes on until all the players are in the same place. The last one to find Smee has to pay a forfeit. It's a good, noisy, amusing game. In a big house, it often takes a long time for everyone to find Smee. Perhaps you'd like to try? I'll happily pay my forfeit and sit here by the fire while you play. It sounds a good game, I remarked. Have you played it too, Jackson? Yes, he answered. I played it in the house that I was telling you about. And she was there, the girl who broke. No, said someone else. He told us he wasn't there when she broke her neck. Jackson thought for a moment. I don't know if she was there or not. I'm afraid she was. I know that there were 13 of us playing the game, and there were only 12 people in the house. And I didn't know the dead girl's name. When I heard that whispered name in the dark, it didn't worry me. But I tell you, I'm never going to play that kind of game again. It made me quite nervous for a long time. I preferred to pay my forfeit at once. We all stared at him. His words did not make sense at all. Tim Vouse was the kindest man in the world, and he smiled at us all. This sounds like an interesting story, he said. Come on, Jackson. You can tell it to us instead of paying a forfeit. Very well, said Jackson. Here is his story. Have you met the Sangstons? They are cousins of mine, and they live in Surrey. 5 years ago, they invited me to go and spend Christmas with them. It was an old house with lots of unnecessary passages and staircases. A stranger could get lost in it quite easily. Well, I went down for that Christmas. Violet Sangston promised me that I knew most of the other guests. Unfortunately, I couldn't get away from my job until Christmas Eve. All the other guests had arrived there the previous day. I was the last to arrive, and I was only just in time for dinner. I said hello to everyone I knew, and Violet Sangston introduced me to the people I didn't. Then it was time to go into dinner. This is perhaps why I didn't hear the name of a tall, dark-haired, handsome girl whom I hadn't met before. Everyone was in rather a hurry, and I always had a bad catching people's names. She looked cold and clever. She didn't look at all friendly, but she looked interesting, and I wondered who she was. I didn't ask because I was sure that someone would speak to her by name during the meal. Unluckily, however, I was a long way from her at the table. I was sitting next to Mrs. Gorman, and as usual, Mrs. Gorman was being very bright and amusing. Her conversation is always worth listening to, and I completely forgot to ask the name of the dark, proud girl. There were 12 of us, including the Sangstons themselves. We were all young, or trying to be young. Jack and Violet Sangston were the oldest, and their 17-year-old son, Reggie, was the youngest. It was Reggie who suggested Smee when I turned to games. He told us the rules of the games, just as I had described them to you. And Jack Sangston warned us all. If you are going to play games in the dark, he said, please be careful of the back stairs on the first floor. A door leads to them, and I've often thought about taking the door off. In the dark, a stranger to the house could think they were walking into a room. A girl really did break her neck on those stairs. I asked how it happened. It was 10 years ago before we came here. There was a party, and they were playing hide and seek. This girl was looking for somewhere to hide. She heard somebody coming and ran along the passage to get away. She opened the door, thinking it led to a bedroom. She planned to hide in there until the seeker had gone. Unfortunately, it was the door that led to the back stairs. She fell straight down to the bottom of the stairs. She was dead when they picked her up. We all promised to be careful. Mrs. Gorman even made a little joke about living to be 90. You see, none of us had known the poor girl, and we did not want to feel sad on Christmas Eve. Well, we all started the game immediately after dinner. Young Reggie Sangston went round making sure all the lights were off, except the one in the servants' room and the sitting room where we were. We then prepared 12 sheets of paper, 11 were blank, and one of them had Smee written on it. Reggie mixed them all up, then we each took one. The person who got the paper with Smee on it had to hide. I looked at mine and saw it was blank. A moment later, all the electric lights went out. In the darkness, I heard someone moving very quietly to the door. After a minute, somebody blew a whistle, and we all rushed to the door. I had no idea who was Smee. For the first 5-10 minutes, we were all rushing up and down passages, in and out of rooms, challenging each other, answering, "Smee! Smee!" After a while, the noise died down, and I guessed that someone had found Smee. After a time, I found a group of people all sitting on some narrow stairs. I challenged and received no answer. So Smee was there. I hurriedly joined the group. Presently, 2 more players arrived. Each one was hurrying to avoid being last. Jack Sangston was last, and was given a forfeit. "I think we're all here now, aren't we?" he remarked. He lit a match, looked up and down the staircase, and began to count. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, he said, and then laughed. "That's silly, there's one too many." The match went out, and he lit another and began to count. He got as far as 12, and then he looked puzzled. "There are 13 people here," he said. "I haven't counted myself yet." "Oh, nonsense," I laughed. "You probably began with yourself, and now you want to count yourself twice." His son took out his electric torch. It gave a better light than the matches, and we all began to count. Of course, there were 12 of us. Jack laughed. "Well," he said, "I was sure I counted 13 twice." From halfway up the stairs, Violet Sangston spoke nervously. "I thought there was someone sitting 2 steps above me. Have you moved, Captain Ransom?" The captain said he hadn't. "But I thought there was somebody sitting between Mrs. Sangston and me." Just for a moment, there was an uncomfortable air. A cold finger seemed to touch all of us. For that moment, we all felt that something odd and unpleasant had just happened, and was likely to happen again. Then we laughed at ourselves and at each other, and we felt normal again. There were only 12 of us, and that was that. Still laughing, we marched back to the sitting room to begin again. This time I was Smee. Violet Sangston found me while I was searching for a hiding place. That game didn't last long. Soon there were 12 people and the game was over. Violet felt cold and wanted her jacket. Her husband went up to their bedroom to fetch it. As soon as he'd gone, Reggie touched me on the arm. He was looking pale and sick. "Quick," he whispered. "I've got to talk to you. Something horrible has happened." We went into the breakfast room. "What's the matter?" I asked. "I don't know. You were Smee last time, weren't you?" "Well, of course. I didn't know who Smee was. While Mother and the others ran to the west side of the house and found you, I went east. There's a deep clothes cupboard in my bedroom. It looked like a good hiding place, and I thought that perhaps Smee might be there. I opened the door in the dark and touched somebody's hand. 'Smee?' I whispered. There was no answer. I thought I'd found Smee. Well, I don't understand it, but I suddenly had a strange cold feeling. I can't describe it. But I felt that something was wrong. So I turned on my electric torch, and there was nobody there. Now, I am sure I touched a hand, and nobody could get out of the cupboard because I was standing in the doorway. What do you think? You imagined that you touched a hand, I said. And he gave a short laugh. I knew you would say that, he said. Of course I imagined it. That's the only explanation, isn't it? I agreed with him. I could see that he still felt shaken. Together we returned to the sitting room for another game of Smee. The others were all ready and waiting to start again. Perhaps it was my imagination, although I'm almost sure it was not. But I had a feeling that nobody was really excited about another game. But everyone was too polite to mention it. All the same, I had the feeling that something was wrong. All the fun had gone out of the game. Something deep inside me was trying to warn me. Take care, it whispered. Take care. There was some unnatural, unhealthy influence at work in the house. Why did I have this feeling? Because Jack Sangston had counted 13 people instead of 12. Because his son imagined he had touched someone's hand in an empty cupboard. I tried to laugh at myself, but I did not succeed. Well, we started again. While we were all chasing the unknown Smee, we were all as noisy as ever, but it seemed to me that most of us were just acting. We were no longer enjoying the game. At first, I stayed with the others, but for several minutes no Smee was found. I left the main group and started searching on the first floor of the west side of the house. And there, while I was feeling my way along, I bumped into a pair of human knees. I put out my hand and touched a soft, heavy curtain. Then I knew where I was. There were tall, deep windows with window seats at the end of the passage. The curtains reached to the ground. Somebody was sitting in the corner of one of the window seats behind a curtain. Aha, I thought. I've caught Smee. So I pulled the curtain to one side and touched a woman's arm. It was a dark, moonless night outside. I couldn't see the woman sitting in the corner of the window seat. Smee, I whispered. There was no answer. When Smee is challenged, he or she does not answer. So I sat down beside her to wait for the others. Then I whispered, What's your name? Out of the darkness beside me, the whisper came, Brenda Ford. I did not know the name, but I guessed at once who she was. I knew every girl in the house by one name, and that one was tall, pale, dark. She, here, was sitting beside me in the window seat, shut in between the heavy curtain and a window. I was beginning to enjoy the game. I wondered if she was enjoying it too. I whispered one or two rather ordinary questions to her and received no answer. Smee is a game of silence. It is a rule of the game that Smee and the person or persons who have found Smee have to keep quiet. This, of course, makes it harder for the others to find them. But there was nobody else about. I wondered, therefore, why she was insisting on silence. I spoke again and got no answer. I began to feel a little annoyed. Perhaps she is one of those cold, clever girls who have a poor opinion of all men, I thought. She doesn't like me, and she is using the rules of the game as an excuse for not speaking. Well, if she doesn't like sitting here with me, I certainly don't want to sit here with her. I turned away from her. I hope someone finds us soon, I thought. As I sat there, I realized that I disliked sitting beside this girl very much indeed. That was strange. The girl I had seen at dinner had seemed likable in a cold kind of way. I noticed her and wanted to know more about her. But now I felt really uncomfortable beside her. The feeling of something wrong, something unnatural was growing. I remembered touching her arm, and I trembled with horror. I wanted to jump up and run away. I prayed that someone else would come along soon. Just then I heard light footsteps in the passage. Somebody on the other side of the curtain brushed against my knees. The curtain moved to one side, and a woman's hand touched my shoulder. Smee, whispered a voice that I recognized at once. It was Mrs. Gorman. Of course, she received no answer. She came and sat down beside me, and at once I felt very much better. It's Tony Jackson, isn't it? She whispered. Yes, I whispered back. You're not Smee, are you? No, she's on my other side. She reached out across me. I heard her fingernails scratch a woman's silk dress. Hello, Smee? How are you? Who are you? Oh, it's against the rules to talk. Never mind, Tony. We'll break the rules. Do you know, Tony? This game is beginning to annoy me a little. I hope they aren't going to play it all evening. I like to play a nice, quiet game, all together besides a warm fire. Me too, I agreed. Can't you suggest something to them? There's something rather unhealthy about this particular game. I'm sure I'm being very silly, but I can't get rid of the idea that we've got an extra player. Somebody who ought not to be here at all. That was exactly how I felt, but I didn't say so. However, I felt very much better. Mrs. Gorman's arrival had chased away my fears, and we sat talking. I wonder when the others will find us, said Mrs. Gorman. After a time, we heard the sound of feet and young Reggie's voice shouting, Hello! Hello! Is anybody there? Yes, I answered. Is Miss Gorman with you? Yes. What happened to you? We've both got forfeits. We've all been waiting for you for hours. But you haven't found Smee yet, I complained. You haven't, you mean. I was Smee this time. But Smee is here with us, I cried. Yes, agreed Mrs. Gorman. The curtain was pulled back, and we sat looking into the eyes of Reggie's electric torch. I looked at Miss Gorman and then at my other side. Between me and the wall was an empty place on the window seat. I stood up at once, and then sat down again, feeling very sick, and the world seemed to be going round and round. There was somebody here, I insisted, because I touched her. So did I, Mrs. Gorman said in a trembling voice, and I don't think anyone could leave this window seat without us knowing. Reggie gave a shaky little laugh. I remembered his unpleasant experience earlier that evening. Somebody's been playing jokes, he said. Are you coming down? We were not very popular when we came down to the sitting room. I found the two of them sitting behind a curtain on a window seat, said Reggie. I went up to the tall, dark girl. So you pretended to be Smee and then went away? I accused her, and she shook her head. Afterwards, we all played cards in the sitting room, and I was very glad. Some time later, Jack Sangston wanted to talk to me. I could see that he was rather cross with me, and soon he told me the reason. Tony, he said, I suppose you are in love with Mrs. Gorman. That's your business. But please, don't make love to her in my house during a game. You kept everyone waiting. It was very rude of you, and I'm ashamed of you. But we were not alone, I protested. There was somebody else there. Somebody who was pretending to be Smee. I believe it was that tall, dark girl, Miss Ford. She whispered her name to me. Of course, she refused to admit it afterwards. Jack Sangston stared at me. Miss who? He breathed. Brenda Ford, she said. Jack put a hand on my shoulder. Look here, Tony. I don't mind a joke, but enough is enough. We don't want to worry the ladies. Brenda Ford is the name of the girl who broke her neck on the stairs. She was playing hide-and-seek here 10 years ago.
Wow. That is pretty good. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this Christmas, if you like a game to play, there we go. Smee, if you got a big enough place to play it. Something to think about. So, Heather, what do you think?
I almost broke out laughing when they were talking about what they were doing behind the curtains.
Very different from what we would call it today, right?
Well, it goes to show you that Christmas still has a time when we think about ghosts.
Ghost story of the day. Mistletoe Boo Ghost. A Ghost a Day by Maureen Wood and Ron Kolick. The last place you would expect to see a ghost would be Britain's police college. Yet, there have been sightings of no less than 14 ghosts there. The Jacobean building, known as Bramshill House, has its roots back to the 1600s. Baron Zouch built the current building, but it is the next owner, Sir John Copp, or, to be more precise, his daughter Anne, who was the most famous ghost associated with the property. Anne was married on Christmas, During the wedding feast, Anne suggested a game of hide and seek. The guest and wedding party immediately dispersed throughout the mansion. The young bride soon found herself in a little used part of the house where she came upon an oak chest. She opened it and climbed inside. It was a perfect but deadly hiding place, for little did she know, as the lid snapped shut, she would be entombed in the ornate box for 50 years. When her hiding place was finally uncovered, they found her decayed remains in her wedding dress, her mummified hands still clutching her mistletoe bouquet. Scratch marks on the lid were silent testimony of her desperate fight for her life. In 1953, Bramshill House became a police college. The oak chest and Anne still remain. Although the chief superintendent laughs at the reports, many of the cadets have admitted seeing Anne, the lady in white, and more notably catching the sweet aroma of her Christmas bouquet. There have been so many reports of Anne and the other ghosts of the college that the administration keeps a detailed record of all the sightings associated with the mansion. If you happen to visit the college and you see Anne or one of the other spirits, don't forget to report it to the secretary so they can update the ghost file.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our ghost story of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. As it is the holiday season and Christmas is quickly approaching, we would like to thank you all for listening and ask you to continue to do so. But also, as I, your host, Chief Lawson, I'd like to wish you and yours a very merry and safe Christmas.
This is Jennifer, Research Manager for Spirit and Podcast Producer. I'd like to wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy Holidays.
And this is Heather Lawson, Podcast Director, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thanks for listening to Ghost to Ghost. Again, I'm your host, Chief Lawson. You can find Ghost to Ghost on all major formats on the 15th and 30th of the month at midnight. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, maybe have a question or subject you'd like to ask about on air, or be used on the show, please email us at ghosttoghost@spiritindiana.com, ghosttoghost@spiritindiana.com. I want to thank my production staff on Spirit, Jennifer Verne, our research manager and our producer, and Heather Lawson, our trainer on Spirit and our podcast director, for helping make these podcasts possible. My chief of staff, Andrew Brooks, for his guidance and help on the scripts, and everyone else involved. Thank you so much. See you next time. Until then, stay safe and remember the truth is out there. Good night. Ghost to Ghost podcast and its contents is the property of Spirit Paranormal Ltd. All rights reserved. We welcome you to download and play the podcast and share with others for personal use. You may not, except with written permission, use or distribute its contents for commercial use. Spirit Indiana Paranormal, covering the Hoosier State since 2002, Indy's oldest parapsychology investigation group. If you're experiencing what you believe to be paranormal issues, reach out to us for help at www.spiritindiana.com or call our hotline at 317-883-9103. Again, that is www.spiritindiana.com or our hotline at 317-883-9103. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself and the ones you love, and be safe out there.